Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about the SmartPlug for your RV's shore power inlet right here. And I want to answer two questions. First, is the SmartPlug truly better than the standard, shore power inlet that just about every RV manufacturer puts on their RVs out of the factory? So is it actually superior, and how so? And then secondly, I want to talk about how hard is it to install, because sometimes products are very innovative, they solve problems, but the install is just very complicated. So I'm going to be talking about that secondly, and then hang around to the very end of the video because I'm going to share really my final thoughts and give a critique. Okay, so let me start with the first question, and that is the SmartPlug here, is it truly superior to the conventional shore power inlet connections, that just about every RV manufacturer installs? This is the 30 amp version, by the way. They also make it in a 50, but I've got right here my old shore power inlet connection here and what the plug looked like. And so this is pretty typical. I think you're going to find this on probably 80-90% of towables. And so I've always had a gripe with these guys right here. They always feel very sloppy in the connections. Of course, you insert here, you twist a little bit, and then it has this collar that you thread over here. And sometimes, the threads don't want to thread on straight with the collar. There's no real waterproofing. I mean, it looks like there's a little bit of a gasket inside of here, but other than that, that's it. And so I think the question is did SmartPlug design a better mousetrap, so to speak? And I definitely think they accomplished that when it comes to just the ease of connecting and disconnecting, the waterproofing. I mean, they've got triple seals going around this plug to keep any chance of water, from getting in there. And then as far as removing it, there's no twisting or anything awkward like that, no collar to screw on. You literally just squeeze these two tabs right here, and then you pull. And so this is definitely a one-handed operation. It's very easy to reinsert. It does have a very firm connection there, so I got to really make sure it's pushed in there, and you see these tabs then go out, and that's how you know that it's secured there. So I think they definitely made an easier connection that's superior in that sense. But then the other big area that the manufacturer advertises with the SmartPlug is that it's safer compared to a conventional shore power inlet. And it all has to do with these electrical contacts, these terminals right here. They advertise that with the SmartPlug, there's 27 times more contact with these terminals right here. So you can see on the conventional plug what they look like. That's what's on just about every RV. And then when I remove this, check out the difference in size on those electrical contacts. Here, I'll put them side by side so you can get a better view. And you can see that on the SmartPlug, they are definitely thicker, the contacts themselves, and then they're a little bit wider too, so there's more surface area. And so again, the manufacturer advertises that here on the SmartPlug, there's 27 times more electrical contacts. So I can't verify that or deny it. I mean, it definitely looks larger over here on the contacts, just the pure size and the thickness of them. But yeah, basically that increases the electrical contact. And so that when you're maybe running, an air conditioner plus a microwave, right, that's a lot of amp draw, especially on a 30 amp, RV like mine here. And so the more contact, the better, because if you have a weak contact right there, things can overheat. You've probably seen on social media before, melted plugs and people posting images of, electrical disasters. And typically that's because something overheated. There was a high amp draw for an extended amount of time, and it caused things to overheat and melt. And so that's where this SmartPlug seeks to solve that problem by having these larger, beefier contacts. Now, all of that makes sense. It's completely logical, but is it a real issue in terms of safety? Meaning, are all the other RVs out there that have the conventional shore inlet plug, are they unsafe, right? And so I've been RVing now for about 10 years. I've never had any kind of electrical issue like that where, the shore inlet or even the opposite end of my plug melted or overheated or did anything like that whatsoever, not even char marks. But I have certainly seen, like I mentioned before, pictures circulating on social media where other RVers have posted and said, hey, look what happened to my shore inlet cable, and it's all melted and burned and charred. And so, I mean, definitely this is a real issue out there. I mean, I think it happens more when there's an excessive amount of amp draw going through that shore power cord, that inlet, and it's going through for an extended amount of time and it causes things to melt. So it's definitely a real issue. Like I said, I've never encountered it myself. I do have a hardwired surge protector that is north of this inside my unit, meaning that that hardwired surge protector in itself monitors the amp draw. And if the amp draw is too high, it's going to cut the power inside the RV. And so in my case, I don't know that I'm going to benefit a lot out of the increased contact in terms of safety because I already have a hardwired surge protector that's going to limit the amp draw. But I mean, regardless, setting aside any potential safety concerns with a conventional shore inlet plug like this one here, I think for me, the selling point of the SmartPlug is the design itself, that this connection is superior just by design. I mean, I love the way that it's a one-handed operation. You can see it almost has like a hexagon shape. So, I mean, you can't put it in upside down accidentally. And it's just super easy to do one-handed. You just line it up and then you push it in there and you wait for these two little tabs to click in that outward position. I mean, it is locked in there and it's secure and it's just as easy to remove. You just squeeze the two tabs, give it a firm grip and pull it out. And so I think for me personally, that's really what makes the SmartPlug superior, is just the design itself. Well, next, let me answer the second question, and that is, what is the install like on the SmartPlug? And if I had to assign a difficulty rating to it on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the easiest and 5 being the most difficult, I would put it at about a 2. I mean, the whole install, everything's going to be on the outside of the RV, thankfully, so I didn't have to drop my underbelly. I didn't have to go into any, hidden spaces or cabinets inside the RV. Everything was outside. The only thing that made it difficult for me was really twofold. First, I'd never done one of these shore inlet power cord or these conversion kits. But then secondly, everything's so tiny with the wires, and so if you've got bigger fingers, trying to work in tighter spaces, it's just a little bit more difficult. So let me go through some of the install highlights to give you a taste, at least, of what to expect if you're going to install one of these. And really the first step was removing the old inlet. This is going to vary a little bit from manufacturer to manufacturer, just depending on what they supply on your unit as OEM. But I think mine was pretty common here, and so I had to remove 4 screws on the outside of the housing, and that released it from my RV's wall. And then there were some more screws inside where the tabs are, where the prongs are, that released the actual connections to the wires. And so I released those screws, and that got me to the terminals where I was able to undo the main 10 gauge wire. That's that orange wire you're seeing there with the white, black, and the ground. And again, this is a 30 amp, so if you've got a 50 amp coach, it's going to look a little bit different. You're going to have a 4th wire, so 4 wires total, and they're going to be a little bit thicker on the gauge, but otherwise it's going to be pretty similar. Then as far as installing the new inlet, they have very detailed instructions provided from the manufacturer, and so again, I'm just going to hit the highlights. Everything was really clearly labeled, concerning which wire to insert into which terminal as far as the hot, the neutral, and the ground. So very straightforward. So once I got everything connected, you just tighten down the terminals, and then they give you a really nice foam gasket to secure the inlet to your wall to keep everything, weather tight. Now I think the more difficult aspect of the install is the actual power cord conversion. I mean, you can certainly buy the shore power inlet, get that installed on your RV, and then you can buy an actual cord set that is pre-made in a factory with the SmartPlug on it. But those cords are kind of expensive. I mean, for a 30 amp version like mine here, I think it was about $200 to get a 30-foot long power cord. And so you certainly can go out and buy one, but if your power cord is in good shape like mine, I mean, it was brand new, the RV was newly made, then it's really a lot more affordable and cost effective to do the conversion kit. And so basically you can see I just cut off the old power cord right there, and then they give you this conversion kit. And that's where I think it gets a little bit more difficult because everything is so tiny inside and you've got to have everything really precise with the cuts. But again, they have very detailed instructions. I mean, there's a lot of measuring to make sure that each wire is, stripped to the proper depth, that the insulation is cut to the right length. And so I just took my time. Sometimes I'd go back and fine tune my cuts to make sure everything would fit nicely. It's just got to be very precise because you're working in such a tight space with the size of the connector. Now, I did add one step to the install. I'm not an electrician, so do your own research, but once I got all three of the wires firmly into their terminals, I happen to have some liquid electrical tape on hand. And so I just went back over the small gap, maybe 1 millimeter or so between the terminals and the insulation. And so I just took some of that liquid electrical tape and painted it just to make sure that there's no exposed wires inside the connector. And then last, I secured the outer insulation. They have these really nice arms that kind of grab the cord and then clamp down around it on the outside to keep everything nice and tight. It's a really neat setup. And then I closed up the outer plug housing. I used some dish soap, kind of sprayed it in there on the old cord to make that sleeve go a little bit easier, sliding, because it was a really tight fit, really snug. And then there's just a couple final screws on the plug housing and a gasket that goes in there to make it watertight. And really, that was it for the install. I mean, like I said, this is the first time that I've ever done a shore inlet replacement and a power cord conversion kit. And so, I think if you take your time, then it's definitely a DIY project. And I'll give you some more close-up views so you can see how everything turned out. It's a really clean conversion kit. I mean, I think it's really hard to tell that this is a homemade cord, essentially. I mean, you can see it's just a really clean, tight fit throughout here. And so I'm really pleased with the way everything turned out here. It's just a really nice kit, both on the cord conversion kit and the inlet here. They also sell this cover separately that you can put over the end of the cord when it's not in use. So that's pretty handy. Well, let me close out the video by sharing my final thoughts and offer a bit of a critique. Like I said, I've been using the product now for about a year, and I will say that the SmartPlug is superior, vastly superior on every front compared to the conventional shore power cord and inlet. I mean, everything from just how easy it is to connect and disconnect. There's no sloppiness, it's weather tight. And so I really like that a lot. I mean, I think it would be really hard to go back to a conventional shore power cord if I got an RV in the future. I think this would be a must-have upgrade. And as far as the added safety benefits, like I said before, I haven't experienced any of that firsthand, but I think it's still an added bonus that you get with the SmartPlug. My only critique with the SmartPlug is with the cord set here. Of course, I did the conversion kit, but I'm pretty sure the factory-made cord sets are the same, and that is, of course, the plug comes off perpendicular to the RV, and then it's going to want to drop 90 degrees to the ground. And so you're going to get this bend here, a little bit of strain. Now, like I said, I've been using the product for about a year. I haven't had any problems with it, but I do see this area right here and wonder over time if there's going to be some strain that could lead to, something wanting to disconnect inside of the housing. And so I just wonder if they were to revise the design where the core set would come out maybe at a 45-degree angle or even a 90-degree angle. And I mention that because the conventional cord set that was on here before, you can see it drops with a 90-degree angle or almost 90 degrees so that, there's no strain on the end of the cord. So that'd be my only critique. I mean, this is very beefy, and like I said, it's held up fine. But I think I'd like to see a version where it drops, 45 or 90 degrees down. Anyway, a minor issue, probably just me being picky. I will say I would like to see more RV manufacturers incorporate the SmartPlug as OEM equipment. I really do think it is a superior plug. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions about the SmartPlug or the install, definitely drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. I will also include affiliate links to purchase the SmartPlug below, and so I appreciate you using those to help support the channel. As always, thanks for watching.